Hey friends, Amanda with the Happy Homestead here. It is Sunday, August 13th with the Every Bit Counts Challenge, and it is 6 o'clock on Sunday. So the weekend has flown by. I wanted to update you on everything that we've done for the challenge and all that has been accomplished. I'm really excited about a few things. So first, yesterday morning, Saturday, I went into the garden pretty early, got up, drove out there, and just enjoyed the time with nature. The butterflies, the bees, the birds, and harvested a decent amount of produce. Got some really big squash, got a good handful of green beans, some tomatoes, and then I got some calendula flowers as well. And cucumbers, and I think 1 or 2 peppers, which was all wonderful, and so blessed and thankful to have brought that home. And then that was the end of yesterday because it was a whirlwind. We were celebrating my son's birthday yesterday with his friends. His birthday is actually tomorrow, but yesterday was the party. So just a whirlwind of celebration and all about him. So not much preserving happened yesterday, but I did go to the garden and pick what I could. And so today, on Sunday, August 13th, I got a lot done. I had well over a gallon's worth of green beans that I had picked over the last few days, probably 5 or 6 days. And so I decided to get those canned up. Just like I have done. I think this is the 3rd time that I'm getting some jars of green beans put up in the challenge. And I actually had 4 quarts today. So the last 2 times I had 3 quarts each, and today was 4. So definitely had more than previously. The green beans are doing great. I think what's helping are the dragon tongue. The dragon tongue beans are producing really well. And so I'm constantly picking from those. But maybe everything just took a little bit longer, right? Maybe I just needed to be more patient. So the green beans are done. And then I went ahead and made another ½ gallon of fermented pickles. I had so many cucumbers just from the last few days as well. And I decided I was going to ferment a really big jar. So we got a ½ gallon of those done. And it's just the garlic, the dill. I added some fresh dill heads from the garden that I picked yesterday. And then I added some dehydrated red pepper, some pickling spice, and then I did about 3 tablespoons of the Redmond real salt, added the filtered water, and then put the airlock on, and it's on the counter. And that's going to ferment for a good 7 to 10 days. I'll see how it's working, but I have no doubt everything's going to go beautifully. It's funny because in the beginning of the challenge, I was like, oh, I have so many pickles. I have too many pickles. And now that I realize the season is going to be winding down and my cucumbers are going to be winding down because I'm not doing a fall planting of them, I'm like, I need more pickles. I need more pickles. As soon as I realize that the harvest may start to dwindle at any point, I'm stocking up on those fermented pickles. That's my favorite way. And my husband's like, why are you making more? And I'm like, because I love them. And I'm the only one that's eating them. And he's like, no, I love them too. So a ½ gallon of those done. And then also yesterday or the night before, Friday night maybe, I can't remember, my husband came home with 4 or 5 bunches of bananas. He was working an event and they were going to throw the bananas away. So he said, we'll take them. And he brought them home. I gave 1 bunch to my mom because I saw her yesterday. And then we had 4 bunches left. And so whenever we get extra bananas, and that does happen from time to time because of my husband's job, I always just peel them right away and break them in half, break them into 2 pieces, and put them on a cookie sheet with parchment paper. And they go immediately into the freezer because they are great for any type of baked good that you would need bananas for, even banana pancakes, if you just thaw, a piece at a time and cut what you need, to banana bread, and then obviously smoothies. They'll be used mostly for smoothies, but it was just such a ooh, bananas. And he came home because we don't have any in the freezer. So got all of those cut, peeled and broken rather, and in the freezer. And then once they're fully frozen, probably tomorrow, I will go ahead and put them in freezer bags so that we can pull out one at a time what we need. And so those were the 3 preserving projects I got done today. Happy with that. I also then took about an hour to go grocery shopping in our pantry. So we have a pantry that is basically our old dining room. It's a formal dining room that I have turned into a pantry. We sold our dining room table pre-pandemic, and because I had this idea even before the pandemic, and bought some shelving. We had gotten a freezer, and so that's where we store a lot of our food that doesn't actually fit in our really tiny closet pantry. It's also where the freeze dryer is. And so I kind of went shopping in there and filled up, took from the back stock, right, and filled up what we use on a regular basis. So my hard white wheat, hard red wheat, spelt, oats, sugar, brown sugar, rice, beans, all of that stuff needed to be filled. And some of those jars were actually very much empty, a lot of my wheat berry jars. And so also we've got some 5-gallon buckets that I keep stored in a closet under our stairs. And about every 3 to 4 months, I kind of refill from the back stock. And it's a great way to keep from having to go to the store very often, but it's also nice because I constantly am rotating through things and I know what we have and what we need, and then I can go right onto my phone and go onto Azure Standard and order what I need. The other reason I did this today is because I actually have an Azure Standard order coming this coming Friday in a week, and so I really just wanted to get things out of the back stock, refill what I'm using regularly on a daily and weekly basis so we can make room for what I purchased. I didn't purchase too much, and you'll see it. I always love to share what I'm getting from Azure, but it felt really well worth the time to go through and get everything restocked. Last update for today, and I'm very excited about this one, is my freeze dryer is working again. Yay! User error. It was my fault. But please give me some grace because I've only had the freeze dryer for 4 months now. Still learning, right? Still kind of figuring things out. So what had happened is that it would go through a cycle, or beginning to go through the freeze, it'd go through the freeze cycle, and then it would begin the vacuum stage. And inevitably, a couple of minutes later, it would say needing to refreeze. And everything in there was already pre-frozen. So I was like, what is going on? And it would do that 3 times. And then eventually I just got so frustrated that I turned the machine off. And so I would try it again. Then we went on vacation. I came back and tried it, and it did the same thing. So eventually I called Harvest Right Tech Support. And I've been working with a gentleman who's been very kind and very patient and really nice. And I think we fixed it. I actually need to alert him. I think we fixed it. But what happened is that I don't know what I had freeze dried successfully at one point a month or so ago, but I needed to take the rubber ring, which is the rubber, they call it the rubber gasket, off of the front of the machine, and then slide out the shelving unit so I could take like a wet rag and clean out the inside of the drum of the chamber. And so then when I put the shelving unit back in, there's a wire that connects to the back of that unit up into the chamber, and that's where the sensors are and whatnot. And the wire was impeding from the shelving unit going far enough back that then that rubber gasket couldn't sit totally flush against the machine, the front face of the machine. And so it sat flush, like on the top, I don't know, 5/8 of it, right? But then like the bottom 3/8, it just was jut out a little bit. Not so noticeable that that was my first thought of what was wrong, but obviously enough to create what they called a vacuum leak. And so it wouldn't actually get to the right temperature for freezing. And then if it did go to vacuum, it couldn't get a perfect vacuum because we didn't have a perfect seal. I digress. It was all me. But we figured it out on Friday, I think. Yeah, Friday, 2 days ago. And so I went ahead and ran a batch. The gentleman was like, go run a batch, because I think that might have been it. I think we fixed it. Go run a batch, email me, we'll talk next week, let me know how it goes. Guys, I ran a batch. And I have all of these freeze-dried goodies. These are herbs that I had harvested over the last month and had put them on my freezer trays and put them in the freezer because I knew I was gonna freeze dry them. But I couldn't because the machine wasn't working properly. And so that was the first test. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get these things out of my freezer and see if it works. And hallelujah, it worked. So let me show you what I freeze dried this weekend. I've got a nice big jar of parsley. So excited to have this. Now, all of these herbs, I'm not vacuum sealing. I shouldn't say that. I'm not heat sealing in a Mylar bag with an oxygen absorber. I imagine that I'm going to be using all of these herbs over the next 6 to 8 months. So that's why I just have them in these jars so that they can readily be used. My goal is to be able to grow enough of our herbs fresh that every summer, and whichever ones can remain perennial, obviously they do, that I can harvest as needed for fresh, and that I have enough to preserve every year so it only lasts a year. I don't need to keep herbs for years on end. So my goal is to kind of do this in a yearly cycle. I also got a nice jar of rosemary. This was just kind of a test. I really prefer fresh rosemary no matter what, but this was a test. And it worked. I've got a nice jar of chives. I'm really excited about that. This is calendula. So this is why I am harvesting the calendula flowers from our garden. I only do it in the morning because that's when a lot of the medicinal properties are still in the flower. As the heat of the day comes on, they retreat down the stem and back into the plant. So you want to harvest your medicinal herbs and flowers first thing in the morning. And so this is calendula, and I need to make some more lotion. This is what I do with this. I don't buy any store-bought lotion now for over a year and a half, 2 years. So we need to make some more, and I'll show you how I do that. This is cilantro. Now I am not growing cilantro, but I had bought some cilantro at the store a couple of weeks ago, and you know how it goes with cilantro. It lasts a day, maybe 2, and it starts to get slimy and gross. So before that happened, I quickly threw it in the freezer on the tray so that could be freeze dried. Now I'm gonna be making some fermented salsa this week, and that's what this is gonna go in. I also did some bay leaves. Now, bay is again something not necessary. We have a huge bay tree in our yard that I planted a couple of years ago, and it grows like crazy. So much to the point that it probably needs to be cut back a lot. But I went ahead and took some leaves, healthy leaves, and freeze dried those as well, just to have. Oh, more chives. A second jar of chives. And last but not least, a bigger jar of sage. Sage is one of those things that I love, especially for fall cooking any kind of poultry dish, right? Whether it be turkey or chicken. Sage is one of my go-tos. And I have a really healthy sage plant at our little farm. And so I harvested a bunch of that, and that's what's in here. All of these herbs, for the most part, are in their whole form. And then when I need them, I can just kind of grab a handful and crunch it, crunch it. My brain's fried. In between my fingers or hands into whatever I'm cooking. So that is the update for today. So a lot of things have gotten done this weekend. I am really excited to kick off the 3rd week going into the challenge. Now I've got to go back up to our farm today and water because it is 180 degrees outside. It's so ridiculously hot. So I'm gonna head up there while it's getting a little bit cooler with the sun going down, and I will see you tomorrow where we kick off another preserving project. Stay healthy, stay well. Bye-bye.